Hello, everybody. The 12th edition of KPMG's Media and Entertainment Report is unique in the sense that it explores the impact of COVID 19 on the media and entertainment sector in India. What are the organizational responses to this kind of a disruption, the potential recovery timelines, and some of the long term themes that are emerging? To explore this, we are conducting a series of interviews with key industry stakeholders to look at some of the nuances around, what's been emerging from this phase, and to get their insights on some of these matters. So this year has been a watershed year for digital media in general, where during the COVID period, we've seen a significant jump in digital media consumption, right? And as things normalize, while you might expect some of this user base and engagement levels to taper off a little bit, we do believe there is a fair amount of habit formation that is happening, and a lot of this growth will actually be sustainable in the long run. What this means is there are two key elements that are long-term elements that are playing out from our perspective. One is there's a significant acceleration in digital and digitization of India in that sense. And from that perspective, we believe that we will get to about 1 billion digital users by 2028. And our earlier estimates pre-COVID were actually around 2030, where we would reach this landmark. The second, and this is probably more contextual for today, is with the pace of growth of digital and the impact, the adverse impact on the traditional media, we actually expect that digital advertising would be the largest advertising sector during this period itself. And this is something that originally we had estimated to happen by somewhere in FY24, right? So in that sense, these are two very key events that are happening. And that sort of brings me to the conversation that we are having today. As this digital advertising growth happens, we wanted to sort of explore some of the nuances around it. And to help us with that, we've got today with us Dolly Jha, country head, Nielsen Media India. Dolly, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time out.
Hi, Girish. Happy to be here.
Great. So, Dolly, just to sort of ease into this conversation, while we've seen that even during this COVID period, there has been a reasonable amount of traction that digital advertising seems to be getting, and the recovery for digital seems to be faster than a lot of the traditional media, right? And if you look at the traditional media aspects, TV probably seems to be picking up faster than quite a few of the other sectors, but a lot of the other sectors still seem to be struggling for recovery. Just wanted to get your perspective on how do you see this playing out in terms of recovery of advertising, particularly on the traditional segments.
Sure, Girish. If I want the overall landscape, advertising landscape, our sense is that it would still be about 10 to 15% lower than how we stacked up, recently last month. Growth has become more relevant in consumers' lives. I think it really stems from there. But if you look at television, the trend that we're observing is that in terms of volumes, television has picked up. Okay. So the recovery on television, thanks to multiple events which are happening, has actually happened on volumes.
Great.
I think the challenge really is in terms of value. Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of value, is it really at the same level where it was earlier? And net, therefore, how would television fare? Our sense is that television could be about a 10% lower, give and take a couple of points here and there. So that's on television. Print is the other big one, which has seen a huge hit. I'm really banking a lot on the festival season, which is going to be kicking in, to see that how the e-tail segment, and we've already seen some of them have already announced that they are going, their sale events are going to be starting. I do expect print to definitely see a strong revival during this period. Okay. The question really is that print has been so badly hit and for an extended period of time, right? This revival, and whatever is the strength of this revival is going to be denting print significantly. Okay,
Okay.
so that's the real challenge really.
Yeah, yeah.
The point also is that digital readership, I would imagine that digital content consumption and not only content, digital text consumption, we all
Mhm.
believe has grown, and therefore, questions come up that, since that has happened and therefore print will see a revival to the levels where it was there earlier. I would say that these are habits which really get formed over a period of time. Just because
Sure.
I have started consuming my newspaper, I've started, going through my e-paper. Will I stop reading my newspaper, which I was reading, which was like a ritual to me?
Mm.
I do not think those habits are going to be killed,
Got
right?
it.
Do we expect everybody who's got into digital will come back to the same course who were reading a physical copy earlier? The answer is no. Some of them would definitely stay on with that, especially the younger ones. But I do expect that a large chunk of readers should actually
Got
come
it.
back. Come back. So
Understood.
that's my take on that. Cinema, we all know, is very bad to it, and
Feedback.
we're still to figure out where it is. Yeah.
Perfect. I think the other point that I then therefore wanted to explore a little bit further, right? And this is around the growth in digital advertising and some
Hmm.
of the sort of nuances around it, right? I think our sense was that one of the reasons and in a market like this where there is still a lot of belief in and more traction towards digital advertising is the fact that it can deliver performance driven marketing, right? And in a market where advertisers are wary, they are being a little bit more conservative and judicious with their money. Knowing exactly where it's going and what you're getting out of it adds a lot more value to your decision making, right? And when you look at it from that perspective, however, uh, it's primarily Google and Facebook platforms which provide that kind of capability today, right? Some of the others might be giving for to a lesser extent, but a lot of the focus of advertising seems to be driven in those directions. This is not something new. Even in the West, it's obviously they still get a majority of the share, but there, the spread across other platforms seems to be far more democratized. Whereas in India, that spend is very, very fragmented for some of these other platforms, right? So just wanted to get your perspective on what will it take for essentially non-Google Facebook platforms to emerge at scale in a way that and or provide offerings which will attract advertisers towards them.
Okay. So Girish, actually, you asked a couple of questions, and I'll just try and answer each one of them.
Sure.
So my first reaction is to this entire thing called performance, right? And the fact that digital has a significant edge when it comes to performance
Yeah.
metrics. Okay. Uh, I think I want to temper that word a little.
Okay.
Okay. The point is that just because of the nature of the medium, right? Digital absolutely enables us to find out who's seen my ad, who's clicked on my ad, and what is the next action the user has taken, right? That does that. But having said that, if you look at other media, right,
Mm.
uh, there has been a fair amount of scrutiny which has happened,
Yeah.
and this scrutiny has only increased, right,
Mm.
in terms of how are they delivering on performance metrics.
True.
Okay, and this becomes very important in a increasingly cross media world.
Yeah.
So I think the only difference really is that in case of television and print and outdoors and cinemas, I think advertisers have been looking at extensive brand tracking systems to figure out that what is the kind of impact they were generating
Mm-hmm.
on various measures, or how retail audit was really showing up in terms of how sales were picking up when advertising
Got
was happening. So that's one.
got
The second thing also is that this bit of performance, we really have to say that we have to break it, right? So there is one aspect about ad exposure, then
Yeah.
you have clicks,
Yeah.
right? And then you have the final action, So it could be lead generation for certain sectors, and for certain sectors, it is actually clicking and completing the purchase, okay? The last bit of this journey is something we need to pay a closer attention to,
Mm.
when we look at our ROIs. And that's where a lot of focus is really going in.
Mm.
Now coming to the moot point on democratization of ad spends, and why do we have so much of, say, of Facebook and Google, and then you have plenty of other ones. I think the first point here is that besides Facebook and Google, there are a couple of other big ones also who have started to show up quite impressively in India. Okay, so it isn't the kind of monopoly that we used to see 3 years back that we continue to see now, right? And which would happen. The other point that we need to recognize is that Facebook and Google, there are certain strengths which they offer, right? There is a certain there is a deep expertise that they bring to the table because they've been in this business for so many years. There are certain capabilities that they offer and things like that. I would say that there are a couple of platforms which exist today in India who aggressively actually taken up to themselves to actually bring out these kinds of capabilities. Okay, so I would again call that out. The other important point really is that if you just look at the kind of effort which the big ones have put together, in sort of showcasing the power of their performance. And when I say showcasing the power of their performance, I really mean by things like in terms of how do I deliver on the on-target abilities of the campaign. Do I deliver it on target? Do I not deliver it on target? Okay. What is the efficacy of when you serve ads on my platform? Be it in terms of brand measures or be it in terms of ROIs that this is really generating. I would say that there is a huge amount of effort which has actually been put in by Facebook and Google, especially in the last 2 years, to bring out that facet to advertisers.
Got it.
And the reason that they are having to do that, Girish, really is because there is a bigger share of pie that they're really looking at, right, for digital. Okay, and for them, the narrative is actually about how much from television, how much from print can I really take on.
Yeah.
So there is a consistent investment which has happened in creating a body of learning, taking it systematically to advertisers, or organizing those forums, educating agencies about it, educating advertisers about it, and I think all of that really shows.
Understand. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to then, pick on what you mentioned about, around performance marketing and link that to another aspect, right? With the kind of, or let me put it the other way around, right? So the reason from the way we look at it is, why is performance marketing interesting for advertisers is because, like you mentioned, right? It's easier to track ROIs and a whole lot of other metrics around that.
Yeah.
Now, when you marry that with the fact that you've got a whole host of new users who are coming on to the internet, and a lot of the users who've probably come on over the last 12 to 18 months or so, these are not necessarily transacting users. They are viewing users, they are consuming users, but not necessarily transacting users. And performance marketing by its very nature tries to track intent to purchase, right? So do you see this, over time, a lot of these new users coming in from, say, Bharat, as you would sort of call it, moving on to some more transacting models? Is there a shift that you see likely to happen in over the next year or so?
Oh, absolutely. So the way I really look at it is that as far as the user is concerned, it is all about relevance. Okay.
Yeah.
So the user will do what is most relevant for him. Okay. Just to give you a couple of examples, if digital payments was a necessity, the user got into digital payments, right?
Correct.
So that's one. If logging on to my child's classroom, which suddenly became online, if that was a necessity, a mother with smartphone who did not have access to a laptop or a PC actually started doing that, right?
Yeah.
For me, all of these are actually transactions. Okay, so there is a digital payment happening. There is a online classroom happening, right? Okay, because there is school is imparting something. There are certain messages of teachers which have to be taken on, right? That is happening. Now the question really is, if we just look at things like, say, food delivery, food tech, or if we look at your e-commerce per se, right? The big ones that I'm really talking about here. The question really is that if I have, say, 300, 400 million users who are into content, Why don't I have 300, 400 million users who are also into food tech and who are also into online shopping, right? Uh, the way I see it is that it is completely a matter of relevance. Okay, it should be relevant and it should be credible. Okay, and that is the reason that, you know, from whatever we have seen in our in the smartphone behavior that we capture, we see that while a VOD consumption could be, as including YouTube, could be as high as 90%, but when you come to food tech, you know, we've seen that best case it has gone up to say 17-20% kind of a thing, right? It is not that the same person who is doing this cannot do food tech, but the point is that it is about affordability, it is about relevance. Of course, affordability plays a big part. So that comes to food tech. Now, if I come to online shopping, I completely say that it is just about the relevance of that. The reality is that we are extremely value conscious consumers, right? A lot of us actually got pushed into online shopping because of the pandemic. So we had to resort to, you know, buying things online, which were absolutely a must because we did have a certain period when shops, etc., were closed. So that behavior change has happened and will continue to happen. I would just say that the interventions which are being made by the large online shopping players will continuously really have to question, okay, that besides showcasing a large range, okay, besides you know, providing a lot of value, right? Because if you just look at the kind of offers and deals which are there, what else is really required to ensure that this person who's currently either not into online shopping or has been into online and offline shopping, not a fully converted one, what is it that we will really need to do to ensure that this person makes that complete transition? So it finally boils down to relevance and you know, really, but I think the journey has happened, right? Because I would say that there are those touch points which have really enabled them to do that.
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, just to wind up, I think your point, you know, the 2 points that you made towards the end, it's very relevant from, you know, pretty much both the advertiser and the consumer perspective, right? That's relevance and value. And also, more importantly, demonstrating that relevance and value, right? So whether it is a platform to an advertiser and, you know, getting him to advertise on him, or whether it's a platform to a consumer to get him to consume and transact, right? So I think, you know, that I think, you know, sort of, helps us, you know, come out with these, you know, clearer thoughts around this. And Dolly, thank you so much, you know, for your insights on this, and thanks for your time.
Not at all, Girish. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And just on the last point, I want to bolster that I am saying that trust is something that we will never trade off, right? So that I'm taking as a hygiene.
Yeah.
So over and above trust, then you build value and relevance, and then you have that formula. Thank you so much, Girish.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.